So we now move on to our next panel discussion on the topic Convergence of Disciplines, End of Traditional Engineering Silos. This session will explore how cross-disciplinary collaboration is redefining innovation and breaking traditional boundaries. Let me introduce our panelist, Mr. Pugirendi Kaliappan, medical devices consultant and advisor. He is a medical devices expert with 30 plus years of experience in R&D, product engineering and regulatory compliance in healthcare industry. A big round of applause for him, please. Thank you. Dr. Vishal Gandhi, founder and CEO, BioRx and Chief Investment Officer, Indian Healthcare Angels. He is founder and CEO of BioRx Venture Advisors and Chief Investment Officer at Indian Healthcare Angels with extensive experience in healthcare investing and venture building. An active angel investor and mentor, he has supported 100 plus startups and backed 40 plus ventures across the medtech and life sciences ecosystem. Once again, a big round of applause for Dr. Vishal Gandhi. Next on stage, I'd like to call upon Mr. Arvind Ganeshan, CTO, Kaveri Hospital. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Kaveri Hospital Group with nearly 20 years of experience in digital product development and engineering. And IIM Bangalore alumnus, he specializes in healthcare technology, analytics platform, and customer-centric digital solutions. A big round of applause for Mr. Arvind Ganeshan. Welcome, sir. Next on stage, I'd like to call upon Mr. Senthil Kumar Rajendran, investor, partner, mentor, and advisor. He is a strategy and business leader with over 2 decades of experience in finance, business development, and scaling high-growth organization. A big round of applause for Mr. Senthil Kumar Rajendran. Thank you so much for being here. And this session is moderated by Mr. Kaushik Ramani, Managing Partner and Co-founder, Network Gain Consulting. A big round of applause for our moderator. Thank you so much. Over to your session.
I think we just have come to the afternoon, probably the last session before lunch. We'll try and keep it as conversational as possible. We'll keep the questions towards the end, and you don't have to worry because after this, I think it's only going to be conclusion and lunch. So we will be available for conversing with most of you available here, right? So I think I have few set up. We had a very, very preliminary discussion amongst us. So there could be questions that could be surprising to some of you here on the panel. But quickly, I think, once again, thank you, Hindu. Thank you, SRM, for this opportunity to moderate this session. Convergence of disciplines, end of traditional engineering silo. This is something that in many of our internal discussions, many of our forum discussions across various forums, we keep talking about it. One of the most common examples that I cite is you get up, get ready in the morning, or wanting to get ready in the morning and get to work, and you get to the bathroom to have your shower, and then you don't get hot water. Whose problem is it? Is it going to be a plumber's problem? Is it going to be an electrician's problem? Is it going to be a civil engineer's problem? Is it your wife's problem or your spouse's problem? I don't know, right? I think over the years, it is us who have actually gone on and putting us into creating multiple silos and specialization. And now the world is coming a big round, and we are now coming back to saying, how can we have interdisciplinary engagements, if you will. With that said, I think the most important problems in front of us today are no longer arriving in neat disciplinary fashions or boxes, right? It's not clearly boxed for somebody to come and look at it and say what it is. Just to give you some perspective, a neural interface is not just electronics anymore. A precision medicine platform is not just biology, right? A surgical robo is not just mechanics. And a connected health ecosystem is not just software. So, and most disruptive breakthroughs now emerge at the intersection of computation, biology, materials, system design, and real-world deployment. The panel brief you heard from the introductor, by the MC, that itself is showing a lot of convergence that has happened. We have moved from siloed engineering towards transdisciplinary model and towards a new kind of builder capable of navigating these intersections, right? Some quick facts that I was collecting last evening. One was about AlphaFold's public database now provides open access to over 200 million protein structure predictions, right? Showing how AI is no longer just supporting science at the edges, but actively reshaping discovery itself. It's a very significant proliferation because of a lot of these tech advances that you're seeing in the industry. The next data that I want to share with you is the International Federation of Robotics. This is a slightly old report, but if I just do some math, we have about 5.1 to 5.2 million deployed robots already functional, and very interestingly, the majority of them are functional in Asia, right? Though, of course, between us and our neighbors, we claim to have almost 40% of the world population. We have the highest number of converged robotics implement, or rather robots implemented. There is also another report from the World Economic Forum that talks about jobs per se, and it says employers expect 39% of workers' core skills to change by 2030. So what got us here is not going to take us to the next future that we need to address. So it itself brings a huge amount of redesigned adaptability, integration, and cross-functional fluency that we need to talk about. And finally, one more data point, which is on the Public Library of Sciences, which is typically called as PLOS-1. It studied about 22 scientific working groups and found that team diversity improved scientific output, including papers and citations, even if it also made integration and leadership more important. Right? In other words, interdisciplinary work can be more productive, but only when there is intentionally led. Right? So with that said, let me begin with the broadest question, and I'm going to go around the panel. I don't think we set up any contour, but quickly, if we can keep our answers to about 90 seconds to 120 seconds, we'll then have more opportunity to discuss as well. For over a century, engineering and science have largely been organized into distinct disciplines, but today that structure increasingly feels inadequate. Solving modern technological problems. So let me start with you, Puher. You have seen this evolution across decades of engineering, product development, and medical system. What has fundamentally changed? Why are silos no longer enough?
That's a very interesting question. If you take a healthcare, there are three pillars. One is pharma, second is IVD, the third one is the medical device. These are the three big verticals in the past. Now, these all like coming together. For example, if you take, I take silos within the medical device. So primarily it's driven by imaging. So ultrasound, CT, MRI, gamma camera, this is the kind of silos used to be there. Now if you start looking at it, PET CT, PET MR, CT MR, ultrasound CT, ultrasound MR. So what happens is these silos of technology driven, hardware driven, as kindly like going out, start focusing on what is the clinical outcome. So if you really look at, these equipments used to be a product in the past. Now this became a component. All this information fed into your AI engine, which decides what is the outcome. So the MRI, everything is gone. Now is the one box which is sitting in a cloud or in the desktop decides what is the outcome of it. That's number one change happened in the modality. Second thing, IVD, if you look at the biomarkers, extensively used by pharma companies and IVD to diagnose. But whereas today it is shifting to medical device. So IVD and medical device are merging together. The silos of between these two are merging together. For example, if you look at the cancer treatment, you look at the protein to find out the cancer. Today, a medical device working on the biomarker of these events, the optical absorption characteristics, the elasticity, the oxygen consumption basis. So now what happens is now medical device start doing the IVD's job, right? So these are, again, it's kind of the silo of IVD and medical device also combining together. The third important thing in the way the medical industry started hospital care, home care, and personal care. So these are the triangle of today's healthcare structure. What happens is now look at the US. They're more encouraging the patient to stay at home, get treatment rather than coming to hospital because the cost is less and also you don't get the cross-contamination, cross-disease and all this thing. And personal care, the personal care is like all wearables, which gives you real-time data, which fit into the system, which also helps hospital to work with you. And future, if you look at it, every apartment will have at least 3-4 beds in the apartment, provided for the people who wants to get treated. Instead of going to the hospital, they can get treated there, where the gig worker like nurses or doctors can visit, because you don't need to monitor on content. So the big challenge for industry like us, how to create the suite for the apartments? How do I create this infrastructure, providing oxygen, patient monitoring, syringe pumps, all the delivery? How do I create this suite, which will be the future of the healthcare? The fourth one is look at it like the screening is based on individual screening. Now it's going to be a community screening. It's kind of a proximity screening. A person walking, I can detect about his cardiac condition. I can go, if a person is going to the toilet based on his urine and stool, I can diagnose what problem he has. And the latest biomarker is the smell-based. The smell we are only used for the police. When you're drunk and drive, the police used to breath analyzer. But today you can also detect cancer using the smell. If you remember during the COVID period, one case study came, the dog used to smell the person who is having a COVID, right? The smell is the future trend in the healthcare industry. So now if you look at it, is all the silos are breaking, everything focused on outcome, disease-based. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. I think that's a very important starting point that you're bringing in. And it reminds us that the change is not cosmetic, it is structural. Arvind, I'm going to bring you in. From a hospital and healthcare systems perspective, where do these silos fail most visibly in real life? Is the biggest gap in product design, data integration, workflow, clinical adoption, or patient trust?
So, the biggest reason these silos fail is because of a translation difference between the builder and the user. Okay, healthcare is a very unique industry. If you go to any other industry, you are building some B2B systems which are built on some standardized processes, which basically take care of your internal systems, and then you serve the customer and you serve the customer's needs, customize it as they want, personalize it as they want. Healthcare is B2C on both sides. You have a customer who's a doctor who has personalized care pathways, personalized preferences, and you have to build systems for them, and the processes are standardized to a unit of one. And you have a patient who's looking for personalized care and customized care, and you have to build for a unit of one. That is what makes it very difficult to build in healthcare, very challenging, okay? So an engineer like me, I'm pretty much from the same genre, is incapable of building a very specialized system for a doctor unless a doctor gets into the process. That is where the silos never worked in healthcare. I mean, it's not now, it's never worked in healthcare, because unless a doctor gets into the mix, you build a system which nobody's going to use. You build a dashboard which nobody's going to see, right? So that is the first thing. Second thing is, and this is very India specific, we have a huge workforce deficit today, and that comes especially from nursing side. A nurse in India is about working for, after the nursing college, she's probably working in a hospital for 2 to 3 years and then looking for an opportunity either in Middle East or Europe or anywhere. So we typically have a 40 to 60% attrition of just for nurses in any good private hospital. I mean, that could be even in Chennai, right? In that situation, bringing in products which increases the workload on an existing nurse with other caretaking burdens is very difficult. So the second thing that you need to be very careful about is when you're building in silos, you're not understanding the workflow. So it has to be organic to the workflow, and the workflow rarely changes for the product. And so that is the second reason that silos will break in healthcare, right? So I'll stop at 2 because but there are many reasons that silos break, but I think it's actually non-commonsensical to build in silos in healthcare, and that is the biggest learning. If you if you're building in healthcare, you have to build with the customer. That is the punchline there.
Customer at the center of it. Thank you, thank you. That makes us move from theory into living system. Vishal, I'm going to bring you in. From the biotech and venture side perspective, where are you seeing the clearest evidence that future value is being created at the intersection of disciplines rather than inside a single one? And if you could talk about some of your examples.
Thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure to be here at this event. And for me, I think biotechnology, I'm actually a biotechnologist. I finished my master's in biotech. And we were taught physics, we were taught chemistry. So for me, this is an anomaly when people talk about engineering silos. I think the training that I received as a biotechnologist, I think there was such a cross-discipline that, we were able to use anything, everything we were discovering to development. It was always a convergence of science. And what I think our gentleman said before, I think we are entering in a world where we are actually going to have a digital therapeutics. So you will have one approach towards developing a biologic, which will be in the medical device as a sort of a pump or something. And that's the future. So convergence is already there, and some of these products do exist, and digital technologies are already there. Health tech is becoming consumerism, right? There's so much of consumerism which has happened. So given what I have seen in my own journey from a researcher to financer to VC now, I think biotech always existed on convergence. And the success of biotech, and now what we're entering into the era of precision medicine, is primarily because the science is so converged that we are able to nail down that what drug will work to that genotypic of that person, whose DNA is sequenced, right? So I think, to me, biology has always been very complicated. And how do you unravel biology through IT, through other technologies, is very, very fascinating. And particularly 2 examples I can share. One is, of course, the drug discovery. Initial part of my job was at Dabur Research Foundation, where I floated a company called Onquest, which was into molecular diagnostics for cancer. 25 years ago, we used a technology called RT-PCR, which people used in COVID to detect COVID, but we use that for detection of solid tumors. Even today, if you look at, that technology actually has a great validation. RT-PCR for detection of early stage of leukemias to whatever. So what I'm trying to tell you that we've been looking at this space for a long time. And today we are entering into the world of cell and gene therapy, where people are talking about monoclonal antibodies. We are entering into the world of, drug discovery assistance, which is basically how do we leverage AI to actually de-risk drug discovery. Fundamentally, if you look at drug discovery across the world, 1 out of 100 targets actually fail, only succeed, and 99 fail, because the biology is only understood to the extent that one can understand. How do you use the computational power of what we have today, what is generative AI, to actually think that what will work in the human system? And I think we have seen some AI-driven drug discovery already getting licensed by the big pharma companies. So how do we de-risk drug discovery? Because it's a very time-consuming process. There's a lot of dollars required for drug discovery, and it's a high risk, high reward. So I personally feel that high risk to low risk and high reward is what a technology like generative AI and many other forms of AI can actually potentially do it. So one is drug discovery. The other aspect of drug discovery is a preclinical. All of us are aware about the animal experimentation, because before the drug is actually tested in humans, it is tested in animals. Now there's huge awareness. How do we use and not use animals? And because animal data has not been very well extrapolated in the humans, so why are we using animals? And I think people are now trying to use something called alternative experiments to animal, and there are now organoid models. Literally, you can have human models grown in the lab, test the drug, test what we call as new chemical entity, new biochemical entity, and it is so exciting, right? And that's the kind of model we are in. Which actually is going to revolutionize the biotech industry in particular, and de-risking this sector a lot, which we had not seen earlier. So these are my initial comments.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Vishal. And Senthil, I'm going to bring you in with a business lens, right? What happens to organizations that continue to operate in silos while the market, the technology, the customer expectations are all moving towards these integrated solutions?
Thank you, and nice to be here. So let me make it simple for everyone to understand instead of getting into too technical on health and medical. So what happens if people don't talk to each other or when the borders blur? Let's take an example of the life of a taxi driver before Uber, right? So he had the power of charging and he had the relationship connect, and that made him to charge. When technology enters into any segment, what does it do? It spreads the market, but at the same time, it's not equally shared, and the person who's spreading the tech ends up having the control. So now the drivers don't have the pricing power because GPS takes care of everything and reliability is on the stars. So when you use tech, the lines clearly blur, and if you don't talk to each other or if the systems don't connect with each other, then the value or the outcome completely gets diluted and you become irrelevant. So to answer your question, you become irrelevant. Now you can be tech heavy but still stay irrelevant. For example, if you take Alexa, many of you guys would have used Alexa. Alexa, Amazon actually fired about 10,000 people in the year 2022 because Alexa was a voice assistant, right? What happened after Gen AI came in and agents came in? They were able to coordinate with the systems using your voice or the request or the command and give you an outcome. Alexa was not able to deliver that, and Alexa needed others to fit their way of operating it. So you can be Amazon, and you can have the lead in terms of having a platform which is a voice platform. But if you don't coordinate with each other or your systems are not built to solve the constraint of coordination, then the purpose of building the system itself goes for a toss. So what happens if silos are not broken? You become irrelevant, both for the customer and for everyone in the industry or for the peers also.
Perfect, perfect. I think in the morning panel, we spoke about it, and then Suresh and I were discussing in the offline break as well, that we were saying two things, right? One, obviously, you can't just do research from a paper perspective. Again, there were slight disagreements, and then eventually they converged on the panel, saying, no, we are talking about two sides of the same coin. And then what we were saying is, over the future, what's likely to happen is that it is going to be our inability to do certain things going to drive research on what should be done to solve that whole thing. So the first takeaway is fairly clear. We are talking about convergence is no longer an intellectual preference. We are talking about it's increasingly an operational necessity. We will now move into a little bit more on AI and areas. So one of the areas that I want to bring in, Vishal, is how do you see the relationship of this? You gave examples about AI and biology, but how do you see the next decade on this particular thing reshaping the whole medical and life sciences, future forward?
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned that I think the silos within the healthcare system is going to go off. And digital therapeutic, which I mentioned, is the future. So all these technologies will be combined and you'll be able to actually track your own efficacy of doctor prescribing a drug, whether it's working or not. Because everything, even in cancer, I've been a molecular biologist, so I've done a lot of research in cancer. Even today, after 25 years of actually understanding science a lot, still there's a lot of hit and trial in oncology treatments. And that's where I think the precision medicine is coming a lot. How do we reduce this hit and trial in healthcare, right? Whether it's drug discovery, whether it is, patient management, whether it's any aspect of healthcare delivery, because we got to think from innovation to the last mile. And the last mile is the patient, right? And the innovation is where the scientist is working on creating something which is fundamentally a big problem, and then they start working on seeing that how they could go about solving that problem in an incremental way or a disruptive way. I think India, even if we can think incrementally, is fine because we need to provide equitable healthcare to 1.4 billion people, right? And we may not need these fancy technologies at the end of the day, but I think what's really important is those who can afford fancy technologies, they must get the fancy technology within our country, right? And I think this is where the power of technology, which is particularly AI, is very, very promising. And I feel that diagnostics has actually been undermined. But it's the diagnostics which is going to enable the precision medicine at the last mile. And you should be able to see the efficacy of any and any treatment yourself. Of course, it's important to go to the doctor, but doctor is not really watching you in real time. You are the best doctor. I feel that you have all the variables that you can actually get your data on the real time, whether you are improving on a real-time basis, and that's what we call as B2B2C model, which is going to emerge, advent of digital health technologies, which I think Arvind will talk more about it. But this is how I see the convergence of AI to any and every aspect of healthcare, and I think that's really going to revolutionize the patient care and the outcomes, because all that hidden trial will go off.
So where do you think the next breakthrough is going to come? A computer scientist becoming a biologist or a biologist becoming computational?
No, I think, see, if you look at, as an investor, I'm wearing a hat. I wouldn't really invest in a company which is only looking at AI. I would not go and invest only in a company which is looking at biotech. I think we are investing in a company which has a team, right, to deliver something together, what we call a synergy. And if the team does not have that synergy premium, right, these are made-to-me-too ideas, and they can be better experimented in institutes. They don't need to be startup ideas, because startup ideas need to be very validated, and they need to be seeing a better addressable market. And I think that is what will excite. And I feel that there's enough scope in healthcare, because healthcare, you're not creating a market. It's already $500 billion market, right? You touch only diabetes. What is the total addressable market size of diabetes? Probably $200 billion. You're not creating something new. It's actually, there is an unmet need, right? How do you provide the precision medicine or develop a medical device, right? All the hospitals today, whether aspirational hospitals like Tier 2, Tier 3, I was in Patna recently, and I went to one of the finest hospitals, when I was at Yes Bank. We funded a hospital called Paras, but I did not get to do a site visit. But today, whether you land in an airport, it will say robotic surgery. Whether you land up in any hospital, whether they have Da Vinci or you don't have Da Vinci, but they will definitely say that our doctors are trained on robotics. Now, people are talking about from precision medicine to precision surgery, because if you are unnecessarily reducing, you can reduce the overall, I would say, the size of the tumor is this much, and other areas are also compromised, and that will ultimately create a problem in rehab, right? So if you can precisely pick up the tumor and remove that only through the advent of robotics, I think what wonderful thing can you do better than this? You can't do better than that, and that's what I say, precision medicine to precision surgery. Sure. And we're very fortunate that we actually funded a company which I think the sponsors of this event, IHFC, actually also did, and we picked up a company and we put in $1 million, and after that they raised $3 million from Kalari Capital within 9 months of our funding. And I think that is the aspiration that Tier 2 and Tier 3 hospitals have. How do we provide the right care utilizing these new technologies? And I think the robotics also, if you look at it, it's just not about mechanical engineer or design engineer. There's a lot of clinical validation work we are currently doing now, right? So ultimately, it's very impactful. I'm super excited the way technologies are converging to actually derive outcome-based value to the patient. Not necessarily it has to be expensive, but it has to be monitored and it has to be impactful. Perfect. And all the stakeholders should be on the same page. Doesn't matter patient or a doctor.
Right. You wanted to add something? I thought you picked up the mic.
Just to tell him, he talked about the tumor treatment. Just 15 years back, we started a healthcare robotics exactly for that. So we do segmentation using the CT image. We use ablation, exactly burn the tissue or freeze the tissue, which we introduced, and globally we introduced, patented in US and India from Chennai. The company is from Chennai. Just want to share him that we started a journey 15 years back.
Yes, please, Senthil.
So the traditional, so what we call as healthcare now is more sick care, which is an event happens and then you try to solve the problem. That is, healthcare is what we call now. But the future of healthcare looks like more of why shouldn't you first get to that place and then diagnose and then treat yourself. So the difference between, or the advantage for Indian medicine, Ayurvedic as a medicine was never moving up because it was too patient-centric and was not scalable, because each one has to be assessed on what is your food habit and what should you do and things like that. But the way technology is now moving, you can actually have a real-time monitor of what is your food consumption and against how your body is behaving, and avoid food habits in such a way, which is Ayurvedic, but usage of the system which is completely cutthroat to solve a problem which is patient-centric and not focused on business alone. So this place is really getting excited, which is the term for this is medicine 3, or the longevity medicine, which is the next trend for healthcare professionals or people who are wanting to invest in this.
Perfect, perfect. Let me stay with the healthcare, but shift the lens to electronic sensing and care delivery. Arvind, we are already seeing wearables, remote monitoring, connected devices, software-driven care, pathways. Senthil was talking about more mainstream. How do you see the convergence of electronics and healthcare changing care delivery over the next few years?
See, there are two basic trends that I see which will shape how hospitals function in the future. One is there is an extensive commoditization happening. It's not just electronics, right? I mean, so for example, all the medical devices that we have a lower end wearable version of that, which measures some of the vitals with a limited accuracy than what you have in let's say, a ground truth level device actually. So that's one level of commoditization. Second is the advent of AI, which is basically commoditized intelligence, and to an extent, certain amount of intelligence where it can give you some clinical diagnosis also. Of course, it is suspect, it is prone to hallucinations and stuff like that, but it is not stopping people from going to an LLM and asking for a diagnosis. So that's going to continue. So that is the commoditization, which basically means that the lower end care that a hospital provides will pretty much become B2C rather than a B2B, which is to be delivered in the hospital. Which also means that hospital has to scale up to really specialize into more acute care, more specialized care, and care which really requires people to come to them, right? And that will allow them to premiumize and then probably provide that. So that is the two trends that I see how hospitals will function. Hospitals will probably change into a care network where you have basic observations, recuperation, and basic wellness being managed at home, which means a lot of medical devices which are currently catering to hospitals and a trained audience, a trained skilled staff have to really change their UX to really be teaching individual people as to how to use them. So that is going to be a big shift for them, or a big opportunity for new companies to come in. And hospitals themselves will be for acute care, for specialized care, for procedural services, the hospitals would be there. So hospitals have to pivot in the next 5 years. They have to really be technologically enabled, build that network which makes the B2C also, and along with that, of course, work on developing that specialization, getting more professionals who are actually more specialized and then are able to provide that care. And those are the hospitals which will survive in the future.
Excellent, excellent. So it's about robotic and neuroscience, and Pugar, I'm going to bring you in. Robotic researchers are increasingly learning from the human brain and nervous systems, right, to design more adaptive missions. How is neuroscience influencing the next generation of robotics and autonomous systems?
Let me give you a little bit history before going to the neuroscience. So we started with the telerobotics, like Da Vinci and all, where the doctor performed the procedure from the console with the 3D viewing and all. So that's the first one, very successful. The second one is a semi-autonomous. Partially the equipment does automatically, and partially the surgeon intervenes on that. Why we are developing this autonomous? The biggest reason is the regulatory. When we developed the robo 15 years back, we told we have to insert the needle inside the patient body and the tumor. I told it's very simple. We drive a motor, we can control the depth, everything. The regulatory consultant told, then you have to keep few $1 million for your clinical valuation. I asked you why? Because you have to demonstrate at least 300 patients, your needle accurately gone. Then he told, no, we don't want to do that. Then he told, just leave it, everything you do, the last push must be done by a surgeon. Because now the regulator forgives the surgeon, not the robot. So robot has all the data logged into that. If you make a mistake, they can find out from the log. But surgeon make a mistake, there is no log. So they will leave it. That's the biggest challenge today, the autonomous robotic development facing. Probably now the AI, ML, AI are all maturing. Maybe I expect in a couple of years, the regulator also understand the risk associated with such kind of a technology. Probably they allow to start with the less critical procedures. They wait for a few years and collect the data, they analyze. These technologies are robust. Now we can move up in a little complicated thing, then very complicated. I expect even autonomous robo using AI, ML, AR will take at least 10 to 15 years. Then comes what you asked about neurosurgeons. That's a biological intelligence, adaptive robotic system. Adaptive robotics is more complex than an autonomous system based on artificial intelligence. It will take at least 25 years. At least, but you can start seeing that some of the applications start coming in autonomous. My feeling, regulator will still ask a surgeon to observe. Even autonomous, somebody has to monitor whether the robot is doing perfectly or not till they get the confidence. Once autonomous start working, then probably biological intelligence, adaptive robotics will be allowed to do that.
Perfect, thank you. But I thought today when you talk about those cataract surgeries and knee replacements, aren't those autonomous or 90% autonomous? No? No. Okay. Robotic surgeries are not autonomous. Okay. Got it. So I think, Senthil, I'm going to bring you in from the market side of this, of the intersections we have discussed so far, from AI plus biology, electronics, healthcare, all of those, robotic plus neuroscience. Which do you believe is most likely to scale fastest? You said 25 years, but scale fastest commercially?
Scale fast commercially, I think the wearable space is already showing in numbers, right? The maximum amount of money spent by the youngsters is now on the wearable devices. Now, they have their own reasons too, but some of it is converging towards the healthcare side as well, in terms of, checking their pulse rates or what is that they want to know about, their health and things like that. Let me give you another perspective on the AI since we spoke about. See, the doctor-patient ratio in India is 1:800 or so, right? And you can't scale doctors. You cannot have more medical colleges opened, and we know we have our own limitations on that side, right? So what can be done is the tech can actually become a bridge where whatever doctors we have, are they able to spend time only with patients who need their attention and not with everyone who's crowding the hospital. So for that, you can do a lot of AI. I mean, since we spoke about, earlier it used to be anything to do with eye, retina, it means it is ophthalmology. Now it is no more. In fact, there's quite a lot of research happening with what you can do with your retina, whether you can find out you have diabetes, levels in it, and is it in what stage? If it is in advanced stage, then you can meet the doctor. So tech can actually become a bridge where it can make the access issue of people who are wanting to come to the doctors bring down, and doctors who are available with us up their efficiency in meeting only patients who deserve to be met. In terms of your question, I would say wearables is commercially already proving it. And I think that market will even more expand because you need some place where you can first make a wide market to adapt first something, and which has already happened. So wearables, I would say, is commercially ahead.
Okay, perfect. I think that also takes us to the next section. And then we are just running short of time. We have about 8 minutes, so I'll try to skip one section and then we'll move to the other piece. But quickly on the gap between breakthrough and adoption, Arvind, back to you from the standpoint of hospitals and care systems. What determines whether a new technology is actually trusted and adaptable?
Yeah. See, trust is very cumulative in healthcare. So each interaction improves trust. One mistake destroys the whole trust. Okay, so that is the nature of the beast there. So first thing is, are there clear outcomes? I mean, it's just, it could be just efficiency, more efficiency, but are there clear outcomes? Second is, does it fit with the workflow? I mean, does it, without causing a lot of disruption, etc. How easy it is to train people to really use the new technology and new workflow, etc., etc. Fourth is there an ROI? And ROI is different for a doctor and a decision maker, right? And those are the I mean, you have to make very basically difference thing. And eventually, you have to essentially have a good support and engagement from the team which is building. And that means a lot of communication. And that is the fifth one. So if all these 5 parameters are taken care of, and with a bit of luck, there could be adoption.
Excellent. Pugar, I'm going to come back to you. And you having worked on R&D and product engineering, regulatory compliances, deployable healthcare, what is the most underestimated gap between the proof of concept and real world deep tech?
I think POC is just 25% of the total effort, maybe 15 to 20%. So 80% you have to cross, right? So what are the hurdles? POC can demonstrate a technology, there is an outcome, but if you want to develop a product, today in the medical system, it is regulated. The first thing you have to focus on, what would be the regulatory path, this product? Is it a predicate device is there I can leverage? Or it's totally new technology, which calls for a huge amount of clinical validation, clinical evaluation? Then that's the first step. So you have to develop your regulatory strategy. Once your regulatory strategy is you decided, then how do you comply to the requirement? There are various IEC standards, ISO standards are there. You must understand. You bring all this into your design. So that's the first step. Second step, being a medical device, life-saving or critical diagnosis equipment, reliability is very important. So you have to plan your reliability design. It could be highly accelerated life test during the development. After you build a prototype, you make, then you go for highly accelerated stress screening to know the product is working well. Then you have to build prototype. Then you have to go for a compliance testing. So IEC testing in the lab to prove the equipment is safe to use. After doing everything, then you have to go for a clinical validation. That consumes a lot of money and time. And if the technology is already existing, you are safe. Probably you don't have to spend so much time and money. After last step is getting the approval from the CDSU or CE or US FDA. You have to make the submission, which takes anywhere between 6 months to 1 year. So it costs a lot of money. So that means POC is only 15% of the total effort.
Good. Vishal, and from your perspective, many promising technologies never make the leap from interesting prototype to enduring company. From the perspective of startups, venture building, health innovation, what separates technologies that become companies from those that remain impressive demonstrations?
Oh my God, this is a very long question, but I'm very, very passionate because I think if we have funded 40 plus companies, we would have evaluated 4,000 companies. Now, what does not translate POC into a product, right? I think I call it DNA, right? If the DNA of the product or an idea is not right, guys, it's never going to create impact. If it happens by accident, it's fine, but one needs to engineer the impact. And I think it's very important that if you are developing any product personally in India, I feel, you need to understand the commercial viability. You're not going to develop POC thinking that let me develop POC and then I will do what I need to do about unit economics. Because if you develop a POC and the unit economics is not even favorable, why the hell are we developing something which is never going to see the light of the day? And that's what actually is the problem with the incubation ecosystem, right? We get 100 deals in a month, across every aspect of healthcare. There's hardly anything in healthcare that we have not seen or we have not invested in. But 1 out of 100 companies we invest in only. 99 fails. And why we do not get them? Because we feel those are very good research projects, but those research projects are meant with an objective to form an IP or a paper, because the KRA for a professor or somebody whosoever is a researcher is linked to that, and that's about it, right? I met recently in IIT Delhi a lady. She was developing a fantastic product, and she said that, I wanted to do something. Somebody encouraged her to start a startup. She said that, I just wanted to do it for PhD. Imagine the government of India would have spent 2 crores in building that kind of hypothesis product. And the TRL3 is TRL3. It never goes to TRL5. But had that product reached the market, I think it would have catalyzed a lot of impact. So Personally speaking, I think the validation of medical technologies, whether it's a healthcare or any other business model, I think is very, very crucial. And if you do not use the, the financial aspect, right, and many more risks which are there in a startup from scaling. So you don't think that, okay, I'm starting. Think whether am I going to scale? And if you do reverse engineering and then say that these are the aspects that I'm going to mitigate, because every startup suffers from 40 plus risk. But every startup also thinks that I only need money, and if I have money, I'm going to succeed. It just doesn't work, right? Because if that is the case, most of the startups have raised decent money, but they still could not move to Series A, Series B. Why? Right? So it's very important, the validation, idea validation needs to be with the multiplier team. It just cannot be a clinician coming and saying that I'm going to do it, or it just cannot be a patient, it just cannot be a researcher. It has to be interdisciplinary team coming together to even think about logistics. Can you believe that you're developing a vaccine and saying that, what temperature the finally logistics is going to be? Right? You've got to think whether this antigen, the vaccine that we are making, will actually be able to withstand the ambient temperature. Is there sufficient logistics available, right? So I think a lot of it is, to me personally, is about strengthening the idea validation. And if we do that, we will strengthen the impact in this country, because I'll give you a very simple example. 355 products, and I think, Arvind can tell me the right numbers. As per my latest research, 355 medical products, devices, or disposables are procured by any super specialty hospitals. 1/3 of these products are not even manufactured in India, right? And those who are manufactured in India, doctors are not very keen on using them. What is it that we need to do fundamentally to change the behavior of a doctor? That's one part. But why are we not touching those products which are not even made in India? And we are replicating everything around diabetes. We're replicating everything through oncology. All the money is going in these two segments only. There are far more areas where India really needs to achieve equitable healthcare. And I think those are the areas where we need to also spend money, right? So I personally feel if we can work with teams, we can validate this solid idea and work with government, work with doctors, work with financiers, work with all the stakeholders, you will be able to see your innovation realizing to impact. And coming to regulatory strategy, because we evaluate everything, I have seen startups raising money and saying that, sir, we are going to apply for US FDA, and while you don't even have a roadmap for UC the scope. Because if I get a license of US FDA, my valuation jump will happen to 5x. Are you there for valuation or are you there for impact? And that's the mindset. And sorry to say, but that's how we as capitalists also think. But I think, considering my humble background more than capital, I think my background in healthcare, especially in the bio side, actually has taught me that it's not about capital flow to any idea. It's actually about really looking at commercial viability when you make a unit model. And if you're not going to get there, definitely you're not going to see ever any impact in Indian healthcare. That's what bottom line is.
Perfect. Thank you. So I think we're running short of time, but quickly, one last comment, one statement from each one of you from a panel, and then we'll close the panel. Start with you, Senthil. Just one closing comment on the topic.
So as he said, the number of devices that we import or the Indian healthcare as an industry uses now is significantly important. And that's an opportunity. And, when we are talking about the next generation AI and all this, fundamentally you need data for any AI engine to get efficient. And I think India as a country stands there very clearly with the amount of data that we generate. China is closed. They don't offer any value for anyone else. That's where India stands as plays an opportunity also. So for AI to get better and data as a fundamental aspect in India, there's quite a lot of evolution which will happen, and I'm very positive about healthcare because as an investor, it's a black horse, we always believe, for the next 2 decades if not just financial aspect, as he said, for making money, but to make life much more better, not just lifespan, but health span also to get significantly longer. I think healthcare with technology will do a significant impact.
Excellent. Arvind?
Yeah, so I'll switch to rhetoric because the topic is about interdisciplinary care and the mindset for interdisciplinary thinking. I think one thing to remember is it's not a hardware problem, it's not a software problem, it's not a discipline problem, it's a human problem. And rarely any human problem is sticking to one discipline. So I think if you have to see problems in that way, I don't think we'll care about disciplines, we'll not care about our functions also in that sense. Yeah, so that is my point.
Vishal?
I think I've said enough, so there's not much to add right now. But the key is to really have the right team when you are validating an idea. And let the team be the first investors. If you as a team cannot invest, right, raise family friends round. I have not seen many companies when they come to us done family friend rounds. Family friend round is a great testimony of the credentials that you have built. And I think that gives a lot of confidence to us. So do your homework before you raise money. Right investor, right valuation, and the right time. I think just don't land up into preparing a deck and let's raise money, right? So there has to be a strategy and execution, very thoughtful.
Perfect.
And you just need one yes from person, right? Identify that one person. It's very, very crucial because when we invest into businesses, we are in a game of rejection. So we also reject, right? So there has to be a way for you also to say that I want to be taking money only from this company. And you should be very clear about that hypothesis, why you need money from that company, right? So that's my sort of guidance.
Thanks, Vishal. Port?
I think one of the biggest challenge for industry is getting a talent pool. The universities and colleges running the same kind of curriculum over many years. They are not changed. Today we are talking about AI, ML, AR, everything. The industry has gone much ahead. The student comes to the same curriculum what I studied 25 years back. So universities need to change, make it interdisciplinary, flexible for the student to choose what kind of a career he wants, that he should be able to kind of enroll that kind of a courses. And also university has to build the capability where they can have a fundamental knowledge and as well as application knowledge. Today is more theoretical. I don't think that any electronics engineer has ever changed the fuse in his house or he's repaired his TV. So always we call the service person. So there is a big gap between the theory and the practical.
Perfect, perfect. I think thank you so much. Even the previous panel we heard about what SRM is doing. Summits like what Hindu has been doing with respect to technology and deep tech has been very, very effective. I think from an IT industry perspective, what we keep hearing is job losses and things. But when you actually take your eyeball of just tech and look at the whole world and see it from an interdisciplinary perspective, there is no job losses. There is plenty of opportunities is what I see. You guys have been a wonderful panelists. Thank you, wonderful audience. We can take a couple of questions and then we can conclude the session.
I am Om Prakash, IITian. There is no surprise to see IIT professors in this program. Happy to see even IIM alumni. But my disappointing question to organizer, why you don't invite IIM professors for this purpose? Another thing is, we are talking about venture capital, seed capital, this, that. Why don't you invite Institute of Chartered Accountants officially, Institute of Company Secretaries officially? Thank you very much.
Good question, point noted. Next event that happens, we will have it. Murli. Sir, can you speak on mic,
Hello?
sir? It will be easier if you can speak
Hello,
on
sir?
the mic.
Sir, actually, sir, my question to Senthil Kumar Rajendran. Hello?
Where are you? Oh,
Yes,
sir, sorry, yes.
Sir, in allopathic system, the physician used to prescribe the medicine in general. Like, for headache, they used to prescribe Dolo 650. Like, sir, in the age of AI, by coupling individual data, models, and incorporating traditional Ayurveda and traditional medicines, like, to diagnose and diagnostic methodologies, to treat individual-based prescribed medicine rather than general. Any research moving towards that, sir?
So we are getting there. We don't have an answer for you now, but that's what is happening. I told you, Ayurvedic medicine, why it is
You have told, sir, but
Sorry?
you have told, but
So the work on research in terms of how to use the AI technology to be very patient-centric and not at scale for one medicine solves all is not how the future of medicine is evolving. Each one is made different and each one has to be treated differently. And that's the fundamentals of Ayurvedic medicine, right? And Ayurveda never did very well at scale purely because scale was the problem. Now technology with the fundamentals of the first principle of Ayurveda is the way forward, and that's where the healthcare is moving towards. As we speak, we don't have a solution for what you're asking for, but that's where the industry is moving towards.
So India has actually started a project called Ayurvedic Genomics about 20 years ago. So I think that has fundamentally created some kind of a understanding that how Ayurvedic drugs work through the genomics angle. But at the same time, today, if you look at, there are technologies, right, what is called cell and gene therapy. They are nothing less than a precision medicine. And in India, those therapies are available. There are 5 companies in India which are treating leukemias through cell and gene therapy. So it's not something we're talking of distance. It's already happening at such an affordable price. The same technology, if were to use in US, it's costing like 10 crores. And in India, there is a scientist from IIT Bombay who's gone ahead and partnered with the pharma company and developed CAR-T cell-based technology, which is actually solving a problem of CML, AML, and I think it's a far, far more attractive treatment, in this segment and affordable, like 1/20th of what a US would cost. So there's enough which is happening, and even pharma companies are using a technology called pharmacogenomics. This is something which has been traditionally going on. So there's a lot of advancement, but in terms of real clinical utilization, because it is a journey, right? You just cannot do things randomly. It's a journey of discovering to development, which is 15 years, but through AI, this can be reduced, but at the end of the day, one has to cross the regulation to be able to get an approval for any therapy to be taken and treated by a doctor. So it's a journey, but a lot of stuff is happening, and it's very, very encouraging that how genomics is becoming a mainstream for not only diagnostics, but defining that prognostic based on the diagnostic approach that we see in the country today.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Murali. My question is more on the engineering discipline that may be needed. It may be on the anti-fragility engineering, if you will, in the market or in the field, in the environment. We see shocks, we see a lot of problems that are coming up for us. So I think, while we look at the cross-discipline to leverage the benefits of science and technology, we need to develop some alternatives in terms of supply chain, in terms of technology. When another pandemic comes, how are we going to deal with that, right? So those are my question as to can we think about anti-fragility as an engineering? We heard about black swans and white rhinos and things like that. And how do we deal with that is an important one, I think.
Who wants to take a stab? Pugar, anybody?
I think it's what Sir is proposing is a step forward from basic risk management. I mean, of course, any enterprise plying their trade today are doing these kind of risk management, and of course they take macroeconomic factors, even climatic factors into consideration. All ESG guidelines actually are telling them to do that. But I think taking that as a discipline, of course, is a very original idea. I think that has to be, of course, considered. Given what we are seeing right now, I think that's probably something that should be considered in future. Yeah.
So in respect of the affordable health care, see, the health insurance is still not taking deep roots in our country. It is not compulsory, though for the vehicle it is compulsory, not for the individual. So we have students from BIT University at Vellore. They conducted a study in and around Vellore. So Kaveri Hospital was also involved in that study. They found that most of the villages are not aware of this insurance facilities. Though available under the Kalangir scheme and the Prime Minister's scheme, they are not effectively used by the hospitals. What is the solution you propose, sir?
Sure. So insurance is a very diverse bucket right now. It's not just insurance. So what Kalinar scheme you're talking about is basically government-sponsored insurance. Of course, there's Ayushman Bharat, PM Jan Aushadhi Yojana, right? PMJAY. Yep. So, sir, in India, insurance, in its true sense, is probably a middle class, upper middle class, and a premium product today, the way it is set up today. And everyone else has to be covered through a universal healthcare, which is probably the CM scheme and also the Prime Minister Jan Arogya Yojana, right? PMJAY. The awareness definitely has to be done locally through the PHCs and stuff like that. Of course, most of our hospitals are covering TNCM scheme right now because it works better in Tamil Nadu compared to the national schemes here. The problem with government schemes, especially, is the settlement that we've been having, and to be fair to the government, there has been a lot of new steps that have been taken right now. But it has become a cash cycle risk for a lot of hospitals, because of which they have actually signed out of multiple government schemes. For example, in Chennai, you would see very few hospitals are actually signed up to central government health scheme also, which is mainly for ex-central government employees. There's ECHS for ex-army employees and stuff like that. And the primary problem has been the settlement. After the claim has been approved, that amount, the time taken for the cash to come in right now. So that is the reason that hospitals do not sign up for those kind of schemes. But scheme in Tamil Nadu, most of the hospitals, even private hospitals, are part of it because they have a very well-run operation. So it's basically a problem on both sides, but we are educating. Second thing is, with PMJAY, a lot of the population is being made aware to sign up for ABHA IDs, which is basically along with the Aadhaar ID, they're asking us to sign up for ABHA IDs. That is creating awareness. So slowly, that awareness is getting started, sir. It's all going to come together. But it's not insurance in true sense. Insurance is still a premium product in our country. And this is all universal coverage that we're talking about. And those are two different problems or solutions for our country, sir, actually.
And I think that kind of sums up. No, I think we'll wrap it up. We'll take it over the lunchtime. That kind of sums up the whole conversation. Just to conclude with that insurance piece, my thought is the more transparency and explainability becomes open, simple, from a common man perspective, then adoption would be more. And I think that's where the topic also is very relevant, that it becomes interdisciplinary value across insurer, underwriter, the provider, the care provider, and the caretaker, receiver, all of them perspective. So thank you all. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you so much, panelists and moderator. Can we have a big round of applause once again for the wonderful panelists and moderator? Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your valuable insights. Thank you.